Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna be reacting to a video called How do Europe and the United States compare? There's like so many comparisons we can do, like economical, culturally, politically. I have like, there's like so many things that you can compare them. So I do not know if this is gonna be like a general thing or just a very specific thing. I think they're very different actually. I think, because even though like I'm trying to look at like similarities, well, some of them, I guess, like we're all humans, but I think like they're quite different places. Usually different continents tend to be like, that's the case. So I don't know, maybe I don't know one's better than the other. They're just different, right? So I don't know, but let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
Europe. One continent, 44 countries, according to the UN, and 740...
I forgot to mention the most important part. One's a continent and the other is a country.
6 million people. The United States are part of North America, only one country with 329 million people, less than half of Europe. The United States are often compared to the European Union or Europe as a whole a lot of times. So in this video, I thought it would be
It's kind of crazy, right? Because like it's 44 countries. How can you compare them with just one?
Interesting to take a look at a few indicators and check how it is that they in fact compare. We've already covered a few of the basics, amount of countries and population, but what about size? The United States have an area of around 9.8 million square kilometers, while Europe has a size of around 10.5 million. Although this can vary depending on which limits you attribute to the continent. So now that we've covered all of those
boundaries at sort of, the borders are well defined.
basics, let's jump into a few specific indicators and find out how the two compare. First, comparing the latitude. It's very interesting to see the overlay of the European cities on top of the US territory and vice versa. For instance, as stupid as it may sound, I had no idea Reykjavik...
That's not stupid at all. I'm just thinking about it and I'm like, oh my god, I've never thought of this. It's so weird.
Reykjavik was as further north as northern Canada. The same applies to Oslo. It makes sense that Portuguese and Spanish cities are on the same level as California, at least...
Oh my god, and they were like conquered by them, so crazy. Well, just Spanish, but crazy.
Climate-wise, but it's weird, for instance, that Ankara is at the same level as Delaware. For some reason, I always thought it was so much further south. It's also strange to see that Los Angeles is on the same latitude as Algeria in North Africa, or that New York...
That's crazy to me. I had never thought of this because it looks, I don't know, they're like this desert town, so I would maybe guess like New Mexico, Arizona, but oh my god, this is crazy.
Is at the same latitude as Azerbaijan. Speaking of Portugal, Spain, and California, how do the US and Europe compare when it comes to the hours of sunlight they get every year? Through this map, we understand that the Southwest USA gets more hours of sun than anywhere in Europe, over 3,500 a year. And unlike Europe, there's nowhere in the US...
Okay, that's crazy because I would have thought, yes, like the Mediterranean gets similar amount of sunlight or a little bit more. It's crazy that no, they do not get, it's the comparison is like, no, not at all.
West gets less than 1,800 hours of sun, as is the case in many areas of Europe, those in light green, blue, and dark blue. It's also
okay, and even the others are like in comparison, the United States, like even people that complain, oh, we haven't seen the sun. Not at all. You don't live in Europe, so well, in Northern Europe, they really do not see the sun.
Odd, at least to me who isn't an expert on this matter, how the amount of hours of sun isn't directly related to the latitude of the region. I always assumed that the closer to the equator you are, the more hours of sun you get, but we can see on this map that this isn't the case at all, even though we can tell that usually southern areas get more sun. If you know which other factors determine hours of sun, let me know in the comments.
It sounds so like basic, but I'm trying to think and I'm like, yeah, isn't that, it has to do with near the equator, right? But apparently no, so I'm blank. I missed that class, that's in school.
Another interesting topic is human development. The United States and Europe are arguably two of the most developed areas of the world. This map compares the Human Development Index of each US state and each European country. In case you don't know, the HDI is calculated as the geometric mean of life expectancy, education, and gross national income per capita. Assuming that those indicators are representative of the quality of life of people, it seeks to measure precisely that. In the United States, there's only one state that doesn't make it into the top 3 HDI categories, Mississippi. When we look at Europe, only a handful of countries...
I'm like, oh my god, it's gotta be in the south. But no, this is kind of like sad. It's like literally the only state that doesn't measure up to the others. That's sad to me.
These are in the top ranking: Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Ireland, Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, and Switzerland. And when you look at Eastern Europe, these levels go significantly down, with many countries in the lowest category, such as Ukraine, Turkey, Serbia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Albania, and North Macedonia. In Western Europe, Portugal is the only country who isn't in the top 3 levels of HDI.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I hadn't even noticed. I thought it was just like, yes, but yeah, it's Portugal. Again, they suffered the same fate as Mississippi. Like, what a sad situation.
Objective comparison of these two areas is also depicted in this other map. This is based on a 2014 Pew Research Center poll. It's almost 10 years old, so the data might be somewhat outdated and no longer valid. Always keep that in mind for these types of videos where data and maps are presented. The data might not be 100% right and it might be outdated. But in this one, people were asked if they are absolutely certain of God's existence. And the comparison of the results between the US and Europe is astonishing. The majority of US states have over 50% of people being certain of God's existence, some even surpassing 70%, those in dark blue.
I hate to be a cliche, but also like it's in the South. Like Southern people tend to be like very religious, especially like in the deep South. So it makes sense to me. Like yes, they really are. Like they believe in God.
Only Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts have results under 50%, while most of Europe is much less certain in their belief of God. Most of the continent is in yellow, with only 10 to 29% being certain of their belief. Portugal, Poland, Slovakia, Lithuania, and Ukraine, along with Bulgaria, go up to 30 or 49%.
It's crazy because it's like Italy, that they have the Pope and they don't believe, they're not super certain there's a God.
9%, but still not reaching over half of the population. The rest of the Balkans is more religious, but it's only Georgia and Armenia who reach the dark blue level. There's a few countries missing from this map, those in gray. If you have any idea of how religious they are, leave a comment below. Another
it's crazy to be like, I'm super certain God exists. It's like, wow, we're getting like this a real deep conversation, but it's like to make the assumption of like, yes, I'm super certain. It's like, how do you know?
Thing we can compare are age restrictions in the US and Europe. Age restrictions can be applied to driving, voting, tobacco, or alcohol purchases. Many of these change often, so be aware these might not be correct at the moment you watch. When it comes to driving, the US government allows people to drive at a much younger age. In South Dakota, it says you can drive at 14 years and 6 months. That's kind of crazy if it's true. The oldest driving age in the US seems to be New Jersey at 17, while in Europe, the vast majority of countries has a 18 years minimum driving.
Is it true, like 14? I've never heard of this, but 14, that seems young, extremely young. 16 is like, I think, the normal
age. Only the UK, Iceland, Hungary, and Georgia have lowered it to 17. When it comes to voting, 18 is common all around. Only in Europe are there 2 countries that differ, Austria at 16 and Greece at 17. Although I can't
believe like Austria can you vote at 16? That seems like awfully young. Like you're voting for very important things. Like it's crazy.
Sure if these limits are the same for all types of elections. Tobacco purchase.
Oh, okay, yeah, makes sense. Like for the president or the other things like that. But it's still 16 is very young.
It's technically only allowed over 21 in all of the US, while in Europe you can buy it at 18. Alcohol purchasing is also forbidden for people under 21 all across the United States, with the limit ages varying a lot across Europe, but none being higher than 18 or 20. Although again, this also varies depending on the type of alcohol. For instance, in Portugal, I think you can buy beer or wine as long as you're over 18, but other drinks do have a 20-year age limit, I think. When it comes to
what is like hard liquors, yes, I was like, can you drink wine and beer? But hard liquors, like you need to be over 21. That seems like crazy to me. I guess like the alcohol content like changes, and maybe that's why. But it's still crazy.
Comparison between military, for instance, it's a difficult comparison to make. According to Wikipedia, the US Army has a personnel of around 1 million, counting active troops, reserves, and National Guard. And according to this
that's gotta be low. I think it's more.
2018 article from Business Insider, the top 5 strongest militaries in Europe, all of these maps exclude Russia, are France with 390,000, the UK 280, Italy 200.
Okay, so like the whole military of Europe basically is the same as in like the United States. Again, I think it's gotta be more.
67, Germany 200, and Spain 175. Together, these alone would surpass the US Army, although you'd still need to take into account the material advantage
Yeah, but it's almost like very equivalent. To me, it's crazy. Again, it's like, yes, Europe is a little bit more, but they're quite the same. Well, not the same, but very similar.
of the US. Ships, intelligence, tanks, planes, investment, and
Sure.
in these the US has a considerable advantage.
Yeah, it's not just personal, it's like other things.
As we can see from this graph, depicting the investment comparisons. But thankfully,
A
most
lot
of
of
Europe
money.
and the US are allied through NATO, so a comparison isn't needed because in the event of a conflict, it is very likely they would be on the same side. And what about an economic comparison? The United States and the European Union are the two largest economies globally in nominal terms. In recent years, only in 2011 did the European Union have a higher GDP than the US. Keep in mind
Oh.
this excludes non-EU Europe. The US's GDP per capita is 63,000, while in the EU it's 33. But keep in mind both of these are on average. There are EU countries and US states with higher and lower values. Also, as we
I think this is a difficult thing to compare because, like they say, like it's depending on the state or the country, like it changes a lot, so it's kind of hard to make like a medium like an average.
can see from these maps, the US's GDP is mostly carried by California, Texas, Florida, and New York, while Europe's is mostly carried by
Makes sense because I think there's also like where the most population lives, right?
France, Germany, the UK, Spain, and Italy. When it comes
And this is the same in Europe. Like the most amount, like I think, yes, I think they're the most populated countries. So of course it's gonna be like it's gonna be higher,
to currency comparison, as I make this
except for Russia, which I don't think it's there.
video, 1 euro equals $1.07. The euro's value has been higher, and recently its value has decreased a little, approaching
Oh.
parity with the dollar.
I thought it was like a little bit less. So it's almost $2. Like €1 is $2.
As we can see from this graph, there was only a short period in the early 2000s when the euro was worth less than the dollar. There was a point where it was almost worth 50% more. Recently, things have stabilized and they're almost worth the same, but with
The thing about like being so much lower, like the euro, that's insane to me because I always have I'm always like, no, the euro is higher, right?
Croatia joining the European currency next year, it might go up again. Also keep in mind, not all of Europe and not even all of the EU use the
Uses
euro
it, yeah.
as their currency. Another interesting point to compare is the percentage of young people aged 18 to 34 that still live in their family's home, meaning in most cases they do not yet have the financial stability to live on their own. Both of these maps have data from 2015, but from the most recent information I could find about this, the numbers haven't changed a lot. In Europe, Nordic countries have very low values. They're also the highest income areas, so it makes sense people can more easily afford to live on their own, but it might also have to do with the cultural element. In Southern Europe, the amount of young people still living at home is tremendous, 44% in Portugal,
That's a
37
lot.
in Spain, and 46 in Italy, for instance, while Greece, Bulgaria, and Slovakia are all above 50%. In the US, values are equally as high, with the difference being that there are no states at all below 10%. The lowest value is 14 in North Dakota, and the highest being in New Jersey with 46, although none surpass 50%. These high values are usually connected with the fact that salaries do not pay enough, and the cost of
Correct.
living is way too high, both due to rising prices, inflation, and also other factors. So
Yeah, there's like so many things that actually like there's also cultural things and also like how much money like people are earning. So I don't know, it's hard to say like which is the case here.
So, that is how the United States and Europe compare in a number of indicators and interesting aspects. There's a lot of things you can compare the two in. If you know of any more, leave a comment and I can always make a part 2 of this. It's always difficult to be fair in these comparisons. After all, the United States are a single country and Europe has
Yeah.
around 44. But if you take into account that the US are a federal state consisting of 50 states, the comparison
Sure.
makes a little more sense. Especially when the size of the two is similar. As we can see on this interactive map, the size of the US over Europe is pretty close. And as you saw in the beginning, the number of square kilometers are pretty close as well. In many ways they are similar, but in so many other big differences are visible, many of which signifying a great difference in the way that people live their life and the quality that life has. Thanks so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you want to catch future videos and leave a comment below with your opinions. I will see you next time for more general knowledge.
Yeah, I get what he means. Like, well, it is, technically the U.S. is a federal state, so maybe you can compare them. But it's like, well, yeah, technically, but I think technically, yes, but not the same. Like, you can't compare because even though they're federal states, and each state has its own laws and then stuff. Like, you can't. There's like they're not remotely comparable to me just because the others are literally different countries. So it is like, no, it's not the same. I get that you can make the case. Well, it's more similar than you would think, but no, absolutely not. The thing about like the sunlight, I think was probably like the trippiest thing to me because again, it's like, wow, they don't get like, even when people complain about like, oh, what a harsh winter, like you're still getting sunlight. I mean, in the US. So when people in Europe, especially in the northern part of Europe, they're complaining about like, we literally like, we don't get enough sun. Well, it's true. Like, it's like, I'll never make fun of this again. It's like, no, seriously, they do not get sun. It's like, okay, well, especially like up in the north, obviously the ones that are like in the southern sort of like region, they do still get some amount of sunlight. But you know, it's kind of crazy to me to think of it like this, because it's like, well, yes, obviously I know that people like are constantly like, sometimes they complain about what a harsh winter, but I can see like why when people like American people move to Europe, especially like Scandinavian countries, or even, yes, I'm probably like most Scandinavian countries, but again, it's like it's the northern part of Europe. Like they have such a hard time with this, because it's like, yes, it's hard, because it's not just about like a harsh winter in the sense of like it's cold, there's like a lot of snow. It's not just that. I think it's just the sunlight itself, like the fact that you're not getting like vitamin D really does affect your body. So it is a thing. It's not just about like a harsh winter in the sense of like, oh my god, I'm so cold. It's like, no, it's the thing about sunlight, which I think obviously all humans need to in order to survive. But if people, and I get it now why they're constantly vacationing in Spain and obviously like other sunnier areas. Again, people in Northern Europe, it's because obviously, and especially like British people, it's because, yes, of course, they don't really get a lot of sun. And previously, it's like, I know this, like the theory of it all. Like, yes, sure, they don't get a lot of sun, but it's like, no. This is like the actual statistics of like, this is true. Like they're not just like saying this because they want to say something. No. This is real. Like this is the actual science behind this, which is crazy. I think even like the most surprising thing to me that even then, just like looking at the Mediterranean, I think was like Greece, like the southern part of like southern Italy, and I think Spain and Portugal, they are still like, when I think of those countries, I'm like, yes, during the summer, like it gets really hot, and obviously like this is the scorching sun, but even then they can't compare to like the insane like sunlight that the West Coast gets compared like to the US. I think also like California, and I think maybe like New Mexico and Arizona, I can't remember. But I think that was like, especially the West Coast. I know that it was California, like it was like one of the big ones. They get like an insane amount of sun. It's like, oh my god, these people, how are they even alive? Like the map was like not even like red. It was like dark burgundy. It's like, these people, how are they? Again, like they're boiling. So it's crazy that even then I used to think of like, oh yeah, Europe, like in the summer, it's hot. I don't know, but maybe again, it's not about hot. Maybe it's just about like sunlight. It's different things. Obviously, if you get more sun, it's gonna get hotter. But I don't think, like, sometimes it's not the same. I don't know how to compare it, but sometimes it's not just about like, wow, it's not that hot. It's just like humidity and other factors make it seem like you're boiling, and other, like, it's just like it's a dry heat. So it's like, no, the sunlight, like it's burning my skin, but at the same time, it's not like I'm like drenched in sweat. It's just like, no, this is literally burning. I can't spend like even 5 minutes outside. So I think it's like, it's the case of like the sunlight. I think that was very interesting, and now I want to look it up because again, like the person in the video, I thought that yes, the nearer the equator you are, like the sun shines a little bit higher, and also like in the higher, the sun shines higher. I don't know if that's like grammatically correct. It's just like it shines brighter, probably brighter. That's the right term, and especially again like near the poles as well, because I know that the southern hemisphere, again, like thinking about Australia and also like the southern South, like the southern South America, like places in Argentina and Chile, like I think they get also like the sun. It's no joke again during the summer. Well, Chile has like the desert, right? And I think Argentina also has a desert. I cannot remember, but I know that the sun, like it's also like it's really, you would think like, because there sometimes it's like colder, and you would think like, oh, you know, it's cold, so I don't need to use sunscreen. But it's like, no, because you're near like the poles, because you're like in the southern hemisphere, the sun like shines brighter. I cannot explain it, but again, it's like it's really hot. So not just in hot as in like I'm hot. No, it's just like no, this is literally like burning. So it is kind of like crazy. I know there's a scientific explanation for this, but I think I have to look it up and refresh, that knowledge, because I think it's like I think it makes me sound stupid actually. It's like because I don't know the difference, and I'm like, yes, how come there's more sun? I think that was like the most interesting part about this video to me. But the other sort of like points of comparison, I think like obviously like again the human development and the other things, so like GDP, like it just like it makes it again, it's kind of like crazy to compare. I don't know if you can compare them, because again, it's like one is just one country and the other is like so many different countries. And again, you can make the case for, yes, the European Union, that's why they are union, right? It's like because they're united, so like we're taking them as a whole. However, like each one of them has their own like little particularities, and it's like one of them can obviously, it's an average, it's like a team, it's like a team effort. So even if you have, there's like some players in the team that they're gonna be better than the others, so it's gonna be very high, but maybe like the medium is just average, because obviously there are others that are gonna be a little bit lower. So of course you have to make like a medium, and again, it's like they're carrying the team. Not the case obviously, but as I think sometimes there can be a little bit of like that of, oh well, the bigger countries are sort of like carrying the others on their back. Again, it's like a team, but everyone contributes obviously, because that's why it's a union. But I think again, it's not comparable. But also like it's crazy to me to think like Mississippi is like the one that is just like the lowest in the United States, because it's like, well, it doesn't surprise me that it's in the deep South, because yes, again, not to be cliche, but that's, if you would ask me earlier before knowing this, I would have told you it's probably in the South. Like which state has like the lowest index like human development rate? I would have told you it's probably in the South. I'm not thinking it's the East Coast, and I'm not thinking it's the West Coast. So it doesn't surprise me, but again, at the same time, I'm like, wow, even that low to make it like the whole like state yellow, that's like, why is it yellow? Like that's like, oh my god, what's happening there? Like I don't really know. Like I kind of guess Mississippi, like it's the Delta, I don't know. There's gonna be like an economic explanation for this of why it's so low, especially compared to other states, all surrounding states. But I do not know. I need to, like, someone needs to explain it to me, like, what's Mississippi like the outlier there? And also in Europe, it's Portugal, which I think, like, no, actually I do not know. Like, they've had apparently maybe economic problems. Like, I know it's very cheap. Like, Portugal like compared to other countries in Europe, I believe it's kind of cheap. So maybe that's why. Like, I don't know, they've had like some like recent troubles. I don't know, but it's crazy to me. And the whole, I think it would like the wildest thing to me, especially like seeing it like this, is the whole like age comparison between like drinking and boating and like buying tobacco and drinking and buying alcohol and driving. Because it's like when you look at the thing of like driving, for instance, it's like, yes, driving, like some places are as young as 14, which I would love to know what specific places. Is it for real? Like what does the law explicitly say? Because I think 14 is extremely low. Like I don't think no one under the age of 16 should be driving a car, but that's just me. So it's crazy to think of like, no, there's like, it's as low as 14. But the others, as in like you have the also like the legal, because I'm saying legal because obviously like a lot of people don't wait until they're actually the allowed age, the age that you have to like go and drink, drink alcohol or even smoke or buy tobacco. Like I think it was like 18 and 21, but it's like I don't think they're comparable. And also like voting, I think it sounds insane with like out of context, because especially like you take like the US. It's like, oh, it's 21, like, in order to be of legal age, but still, like, you're driving at 14. To me, it's more irresponsible. Like, the amount of responsibility it takes to, like, be behind the wheels. Like, you're not, like, what? A 14-year-old can do it, but at the same time, they're not allowed to buy like, tobacco or drink alcohol until they're 21. It's like, no, that's so like that's it should be the other way around. Like having a car, or well, not necessarily having a car, but just like being behind the wheel. Like I think it's more, you need more, I don't know, like you need to be more responsible about this. I know that alcohol can obviously cause a lot of troubles, but it's kind of like crazy. Like when you see it like this, it's like, what? And the whole thing about Austria also like being like you only need almost like when you're voting, as in voting in elections, it tends to be 18. I think that's sort of like the standard that I would have thought before this, that it was the standard. However, Austria like apparently like makes people vote at 16, which is crazy. Again, to me, it's the same thing about like the amount of responsibility. Like, what do you mean you're still in high school, but you're voting for the president? Which, you know, sure, you know, you're a young person, you should have a say on like who your president is. However, at the same time, it's like you're 16. Like, there's like even 18, I think it's incredibly young. But I understand, like, legally, you're an adult, and it's like you have to make decisions. Which again, you're usually like you're in college by that time, and you already chosen like your career, what you're about to study. That's crazy again because you're so young. How are you know? Like, how are you supposed to know like what are you gonna do with the rest of your life? But even then, it's like 16. That seems like awfully young to me to be like choosing who should be president or who should be, you know, who should be in the, or vote by like constitution, or I don't know, like vote, just vote in legal matters. That seems crazy to me. And the whole living at home still, I already mentioned, like, it's really, I think it's hard to make, again, to like make a thing about, oh, it's because people are earning, like, you don't really know. Is it because people are earning less money and, you know, their salaries don't allow them to like move out of their homes? Or is it a cultural thing? I know some cultures that like do prefer to sort of like live at home until I don't know, until they choose not to. Like, it's more of a personal thing. I think the United States it's more like they have the mindset of, oh, you're 18, you should like definitely move out, whether you're going to college because you go to college in other states probably, or just because, you know, you just have to move out because you're 18. So technically I'm not, you know, as a parent, you're not responsible for that child anymore, which is again crazy because you have a child, you're responsible for them technically until you die, but legally you're not supposed to, like, you don't have to like support them economically. So a lot of parents, I think, are a little bit of more like, well, you should get out because you're 18 now. And I think other places and other cultures, I think in Europe and other countries, I think they're more a little bit of like, just move out when you can, like when you have enough money. And I think they're more chill about this. I think the United States is a thing about like, go, leave. I don't know. But I don't know if Scandinavia is also the same. They have that mindset maybe culturally as well of like, you're 18, so you should like move out. I don't really know. Maybe it depends on the families. It depends on like on the culture. I don't know. But I think that's very interesting because like, again, it changes so much depending on the country and depending on the person and depending on so many factors that, I don't know, it's kind of crazy to think of like, yes, it is like this everywhere. But, you know, this was very, very interesting as well. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!